Hello students, uh, this is Kuntaka's Vakrokti Jivitam and we have been discussing the Vakroktis that are called as Vakratas or obliquity by Kuntaka. We have already discussed 5 types of Vakratas or obliquity, and the last one we had discussed was Prakarna Vakrata or episodic obliquity. Now, this is the sixth one, and that we can say the last one, that is known as Prabandha Vakrita compositional obliquity. Uh, Prabandha Vakrita or compositional obliquity is the last variety of Vakrita that is known as obliquity. This variety is said to bear the beauty of the combined complex of the 5 varieties that are Varna Vinyasa Vakrita, phonetic obliquity, Pada Purvadha Vakrita, lexical obliquity, Pada Paradha Vakrita, grammatical obliquity, Vakya Vakrita, sentential obliquity, Prakarna Vakrita, and the episodic obliquity. These subvarieties now in addition to these varieties, subvarieties may be stated in the following way. The subvarieties are Rasantara Vakrita, obliquity of changing the rasa. Then Sampanna Vakrita, obliquity of winding up the story. Katha Vicheda Vakrita, obliquity of intending end. Anusa Egika Fal Vakrita, obliquity of contingent objective. Namakarana Vakrita, obliquity of title, and Tulya Katha Vakrita, obliquity of identical subject. Rasantra Vakrita, obliquity of changing the rasa, is the soul of the whole kavya. All the episodes of the plot are organized in accordance with the principal angirasa, the dominant emotion, and likewise the whole story is constructed. This may cause a monotony in the expression. Hence, the writer, in order to prevent the monotony of expression, alters the determined rasa by changing the events. This aesthetic change requires an extraordinary compositional skill. Regarding this Vakrita, Kuntaka says that when a poet, ignoring the determined rasa, makes a provision of another rasa so as to make his work delightful, we have this subvariety of Prabandha Vakrita. Needless to say that rasa is the soul of composition, and for the sake of its unhampered overflow, the poet arranges the whole plot. He, being inspired by the desire of novelty, sometimes makes such a remarkable change in the source story that it starts reverberating with alluring charm and delight. Such an arrangement or change has not only a natural power of persuasion and of giving pleasure, but also the marvelous power of exalting the soul and swaying the hearts of men. In other words, it can be said that this subvariety underlines how the change of rasa contributes to the consummation of angirasa. Kuntaka holds that a talented poet makes a provision of other rasas in his kavya only to achieve this objective. Anandavardhana's postulation of Angirasa in a long poem of narrative variety is the same device. Its function also is to overwhelm the Sahardya, the sensitive reader, after he has finished the composition. From the very nature and magnitude of the composition, it stands to reason that there should be plurality of rasas in the narrative so as to assist the overflow of the angirasa. But if the other rasas are delineated in a manner that impairs the relish of angirasa and emotional complex, we have artistic demerit. The canonists have accordingly identified a relationship between different rasas, some of which are mutually agreeable and some disagreeable. Kuntaka includes only the mutually agreeable rasas in this subvariety of Vakrita. These rasas can be designated as friendly rasas. Similarly, the mutually disagreeable rasas can be designated as hostile rasas. This naturally means that in a poem it is friendly rasas which should be accommodated so as to augment and strengthen the angirasa. Keats's the example he gives we have here is to understand it is the Keats says the eve of Saint Agnes that can exemplify the subvariety. Here the biting cold of dancing of revelers, the howling of the wind, the silence and gloom of the long corridors of the immense castle are all suggestive of suspense. This atmosphere is rappelé with the Strokes of Bhayanak Rasa. Thereafter, the Adbhuta Rasa is produced when Porfirio sees Madeline, so pure a thing, so free from mortal taint, and kneeling down, grows faint. The atmosphere enhances the warmth of love that exists between two lovers when they both are lost in their own exquisite world of love. Keats here describes this love-laden scene in the poem when both the lovers meet in the night, in the eve of St. Agnes. Now, Sampanna Vakrita, next subvariety, that is the obliquity of winding up the story. This deals with the writer to the particular part of the source for the purpose of achieving the intended end in the Kavya. Kuntaka says that when a writer, in order to give up the insipidity of the later part, winds up the story with a particular episode or of the source story which determines matchlessly the characters of the protagonist, we have this subvariety of Prabandha Vakrita. Okay, the compositional obliquity. The writer does so when different parts of the source story are not equally relishable. Okay, when we see them into parts, into separation, they are not so relishable, so enjoying. That is, the former part can be more relishable than the later, or vice versa. So some parts, maybe former or later, can be more relishable, more enjoyable than the other parts. So in such a condition, the talented writer, leaving the insipid part of the story, picks up the relishable part and expands it for his composition. In it, he aims at the delineation of the protagonist's excellence. The moment he sees his protagonist attaining excellence, he winds up the composition irrespective of the stage of the story. This winding up produces a kind of vakrita in the composition. Now, for example, we can see this obliquity in Shelley's Prometheus Unbound. The poet here avoids depicting the former part, being it insipid. The subject of the poem, as indicated by the title, is the unbinding of Prometheus. After the release of Prometheus, the real action starts with the hero's spiritual evolution. Now, Anusangika Phal Vakrita, obliquity of contingent objective. This is the result of the protagonist's action performed and objectives obtained in Kavya. Kuntaka says that a writer begins his work or story with an intention, but the protagonist obtains extra results as his contingent objectives, unknown in the source story. The achievement of such objectives enhance the excellence of both the protagonist and the work. Kuntaka defines it, saying that when the protagonist, during his discourse of action for the proposed result, is made to obtain different results of the same worth, we have the subvariety of Prabandha Vakrita. This role of protagonist, in which he obtains different results as his objective along with that of that intended one, elevates the status of the protagonist and makes the work vibrate with a remarkable strikingness. The secret of this obliquity lies in the inquisitiveness of human nature. Man loves strangeness because it satisfies the basic demand of human nature, that for a pleasant surprise. A talented writer never fails to recognize this psychological fact, and therefore he proves his compositional skill by arranging all the episodes accordingly. Now here again we can quote the example from Keats's poem The Eve of St. Agnes, that exemplifies this obliquity. Here Madeline does not have only a dream of lover but unites also with him, and conversely Porfirio does not only see Madeline but unites with her. Next kind of subvariety is Namakarna Vakrita, the obliquity of title, the Namakarna Vakrita. This is the oblique use of title of a Kavya. Kuntaka holds that the title of Kavya is also replete with the kind of Vakrita. He adds that sometimes even a symbolic mark or name of the source story produces a remarkable beauty. The title of the work attracts the reader due to its striking meaning. Hence, a great writer entitles his Kavya in such a way that the title does not have merely a ceremonial purpose. The purpose of a good title is to unlock and underline the soul of the work. It enables the reader to know the main idea in either of the ways, symbolic or literal. In a way, it is the skill or art of the writer which Kuntaka calls Namakarna Vakrita. Next is the title of the play is Atha Abhigyana Shakuntala. The example here. Um, Atha is invariably used at the beginning of Sanskrit works as iti. It is used to mark their close. So Atha is the beginning and iti is the close. It has the additional sense of auspiciousness, having first emanated from the throat of Brahma along with the sacred syllable Om. Next, the word Abhigyana is the title, signifies a token of recognition in the play. This token of recognition is ring, which is instrumental in bringing about the final recognition of Shakuntala by the king. So, here Abhigyana is the ring. Thus, the title of the play has obliquity, which Kuntaka calls Namakarna Vakrita, the obliquity of title. Next is Tulya Katha Vakrita, obliquity of identical subject. So this is the last sub-variety of Prabandha Vakrita, and according to Acharya Kuntaka, the whole work may be oblique with new instructions and ways of success. And he holds that even when great writers compose different literary works based on an identical theme, each one of them possesses infinite individual beauty. The reason is that the poets have their own approaches to and view of looking at an identical subject, and because of their individuality, they give entirely a new design. Thus, the manifestation of this sub-variety of Prabandha Vakrita is born out of innate and natural state of the writer's mind and art. Now, compare the following poems. You can compare Robert Sade's A Vision of Judgment to Bayer's Vision of Judgment. Both have similar titles, so we can compare between both of them. Then the character of King George III, Wordsworth's poem Peter Bell, a tale to Shelley's Peter the Third, and King George III is the central subject of Vision of Judgment. Okay, and Wordsworth's poem Peter Bell, and we can compare to a tale to Shelley's Peter the Third, then Boccaccio's story to Keats' Isabella. So these can be the comparisons. So here we end all kinds of obliquities or vakrita written by Acharya Kuntaka. Now let's sum up. Let's have a quick conclusion. Kuntaka was aware of some of crucial problems pertaining to the language of poetry, which he called vakrokti or obliquity. He made several explanatory but penetrating contribution on many issues having a distinct bearing on poetry and poetic expression that still confront modern scholars. Although he does not use the terminology of modern criticism, linguistic and stylistics, his formulation of poetry are seminal, and in certain respect his approach is more comprehension. Now let's have a look at review questions also. What can be the questions? The definition of vakrokti described into brief, and its nature and its kinds. Then the concept of vakrokti. Next question, can be appreciate any poem of your choice in light of vakrokti siddhanta, and write a note on any two of the following: varna vinyasa vakrita, that is the phonetic obliquity; pada parvada vakrita, lexical obliquity; pada parada vakrita, grammatical obliquity; pakya vakrita, sentential obliquity; prakarna vakrita, episodic obliquity; and prabandha vakrita, compositional obliquity. So questions can be framed on these points. So here we end with these 6 kind of obliquities, these 6 kind of vakroktis, Kuntaka's Vakrokti Jivitam. Thank you very much.